When I was meditating in tonight's gospel, I was remembering, thinking about the time when I had been a priest 2 years. I was in a very busy parish, very, very, very busy, and I was still learning how to be a priest. And I remember feeling anxious. I was feeling very anxious. I was feeling that God was far from me. And I was disappointed. I was wondering, like, what's happening? I should be happy. I should be having joy, but instead I am, in a way, I was going through a rough time. That was in that year during Christmas. And January of the following year, I went to make my annual retreat, a silent retreat. It was for 5 or 8 days, I don't remember exactly. And I remember telling my spiritual director about my experience of that past Christmas. I said, it was very difficult. I was anxious, I was not happy, I was so busy, and I felt that I missed. I wasn't really experiencing Christmas. And at one point, I just remember what he did. As he listened to me, he took this gospel and he read it to me, and he said, pay attention to how the first Christmas was like. Think about it. It wasn't the way we think it was, if we really pay attention. If we heard the story, we pay attention to the story, how it was described. Joseph and Mary could not find a place where the baby could be born. They had to look for a place so that the Blessed Mother could give birth to the Savior, to Jesus, our King. And I'm sure that it was not easy, not knowing if they were going to find a place where Jesus, the King, would be born. And where was he born? Not in a nice crib, not the way we imagine, not the way we sometimes think about it. No, he was born. Who witnessed the birth of Jesus? Mary, Joseph, cows, sheep, camels, animals. It was smelly, it was messy. And God decided to come to us in the midst of in those circumstances. That's how the first Christmas was. And I don't know, maybe some of you here tonight are going through a rough time. Maybe you're feeling anxious. Maybe you lost somebody in your family, a loved one. Maybe you went through a divorce. Maybe you are dealing with an illness that the future is not certain. Who knows? And maybe you're feeling anxious and fearful and not really experiencing the joy of Christmas. If that is your case, you can truly identify with what the Holy Family went through. I mean, they had joy. They experienced the joy that the Savior was born and all that, but they also experienced, they went through a difficult time, not being able to find a place for Jesus to be born. And a lot of times we go through what they call in psychology cognitive dissonance. A cognitive dissonance is when we have expectations about life. For example, you're in college, you study really hard, and then you're hoping to find a job, and then you graduate and you're not able to find a job, and then you're disappointed because you had hopes, you had dreams that you were going to be able to work, and you're not able to find a job. So there's a dissonance because the expectation doesn't really match the reality. And all of us go through that at one point or another in life. Somebody who was eager to retire, life will be great when I retire, and then the person retires, and then there's a lot of free time. And the person doesn't really know what to do with so much free time anymore. And we all go through those moments. And they are meant really to help us to find God, to really find God in our reality the way it is. Because God is so present to us, more than we can imagine, more than we can think of. You know, God is really present in our reality. But we really have to pay attention to what we're going through in life, to what's happening to us, because God, the Savior, is with us. He is the Emmanuel. God is writing our own history through the events that we go through in life. No matter what we go through in life, God is the author of He's writing our history. And when we have that faith, things change. When we're able to see everything that happens to us from that perspective, things change. Let me finish with this. I was thinking about this too. I don't think I ever shared this before, but I come from a big family. As you know, some of you know that I come from El Salvador, Central America. There's 7 of us, 7 siblings. We were poor, a poor family. We lived in a shack. And so my dad had no option but to come to the United States to give us a better life. When I was like 8, at that moment I could not really understand it, why that was happening. He had to come here to work and to help us, and later I came to this country. And who would have thought that years later I came to this country, and later on in life, God called me to go to the seminary, and I became a priest of Jesus Christ. If my dad hadn't left El Salvador, I would not be here. I would not be a priest. And that's how God works. That's how God writes history. You never know. You may be going through a very difficult time right now, but God is there with you. You may not understand it right now, but later in life, with the eyes of faith, you will see that God was doing something beautiful in your life. We just have to trust in God, that God is really in control.